Okay, here we are talking about gauge blocks. So the OD of this part is 1" 750. So we're going to set up gauge blocks to check that with an indicator. Now, that's pretty easy because we have a 1" block here. That's 1". I don't think you can see it on camera, but it does say it right there that there's a 1. And then 750 is right here. 750 block. Basically, use the meat of your hand to make sure these are clean. Stick them together. Kind of slide them a little bit, and they usually stick pretty good. Mine are old, they don't stick so well, but they're good enough. So that's set up for that. I'll show how to set up that here in a minute. Now I'm going to show how to get it's a 8, 90, and 5/10,000 7" setup I need for the ID of this part to check the hole of that part. So we're going to get that block set too. So I always start with the smallest block I need, which is a 5/10,000 7". So, because they all have the extra 0.1 on them, right? Because it would be way too thin to handle and deal with. So, I got my 5/10,000 7". Since I need 890, 50 plus 40 is 90. So I'll need the 140 block to get to the 90. And then the 650. 650 plus 140 is 790. Plus 1 and 5/10 is 890 and a half, right? 890 and 5/10. We use that to put in our bridge to set our bore gauge. There's that stack. See how they all stick together? All right, let's do the bore gauge or the indicator. Let's move these out the way. All right. Now, set your bridge. First, you need your parallels in. I'm going to set this down here. A little bit easier to do. Set your parallels in, about half. I do have them marked on the one side where the half point is, but we're doing it this way. It'll be alright. You put your gauge blocks in there, right in the middle. Push that down. Screw it in. Try to move these a little bit. Make sure they're not all cockeyed and stuff in there. Give it another little tighten. Just hand tight is all you want that. You get that any tighter than hand tight, you're going to mess up your threads down in there. I already had a guy do it. He borrowed it from me and he tightened it too tight. I had to jam it back out of there. But there, that bridge is set up to check ID sizes. Set your bore gauge using gauge blocks. We'll set a bore gauge in another video. That's a whole nother gig. Okay. This is an indicator. Nice big surface plate indicator with an attached granite plate on it, an old Federal. There we go. You can see as you push this up, the needle moves, right? In an incremented movement. These are the 1" 750 blocks I put together earlier. We're just going to kind of cock them up under the needle. Slide it back and forth. Make sure there's no dust or grime underneath it. Turn and you set your 0. I always like to pull my blocks out. Put him back in, make sure my 0 didn't move, because it does. It likes to move on you. Scrap a part in a minute. So there we have that set. Now we're going to put our part under there. This is an old carbide part I've had in the garage. It's kind of crappy looking, but it serves our purpose. Boom, there we go. We checked this part the other day in my other video, but we're using it again here. Getting the same thing, a little bit of a taper on it. Maybe it's not a taper. Close enough. Anyway, you get the idea. That's showing us we're just a couple tenths under our 0. And that's still set. Like I said, it likes to move, so I like to check it even after I check the part. See, it did move just a little bit. Not much though, since that one of those lines is 1/10,000th of an inch. So that's one indicator we use for checking parts. This is another type of indicator we use for checking parts in the same manner. Just usually don't use this type of base, but my other base is kind of broke. And once again, you just get it to your 0. I want my 0 to be there. So I'm going to move it. And this is, you can see it's moving as I touch it. It's very, very fine. So I prefer my other base. But this will work. Okay, sometimes you end up doing this. See, I'm plus 6/10, right? Come from behind it. Plus 7/10. Plus that one 2/10. Okay, that's a lot. Must have moved. Dang it. Sometimes you get dust under the base and you gotta wipe it off. Dust, any kind of dirt, debris will mess you up in a heartbeat. There we go. See? There was some dirt up under there. Alright. So now we've seen that. We're at 0. Let's roll the part. And it's showing 5/10 under. And that's 1/0. See, we're getting different readings on different indicators. Glad that's not my part and I'm not responsible for it. So anyway, there's some of the uses for gauge blocks. Here's another one. Calibrate this micrometer. I'm going to open it up to 750. And we'll use the 750 block here. And we can see, I usually like to move it back and forth like I do under the indicator. Make sure we're good and seated on there. And we'll look at this. I know I'm a thou undersize on it, which I kind of did on purpose. We'll do calibrating the mic and everything in another video. So that's kind of the gist of gauge blocks. You just got to do the math, and it's best to do it. Put the number you need in your calculator and subtract the block you're taking out as you pull it out of the box. That's a good way for beginners to do it. And as long as you end up with a 0 number and not a negative or a positive, you're good. All right, go measure something.